striped shirt, son.
Yeah.
What about the tie?
The
I
tie,
can't see anything.
the tie is just blue with little silver
Very nice.
oblong circles on it.
I talked to Theo yesterday, and Ollie was getting along a little bit better, but they do have somebody coming in the mornings now and helping them out.
That's good. Okay, today we are going to do the last section of a guide for worship leaders, finishing up our lessons in Timothy, 1 Timothy. Today's lesson is broken into, Bible verse is broken into 3 parts, verses 1 to 2, verses 3 to 16, although we don't cover them all, is widows, and then 17 through 22 is church leaders. These last 3 lessons in today have been aimed towards church leaders, but I think they apply to all of us as we are charged to carry out spreading the word. So hopefully we've had some good teachers up until today, and hopefully everybody's got a lot out of it. The pencils we're going to use towards the end of the class, have a little survey I'm going to pass out. And you might be thinking about this. It's a time survey where you break down the number of hours you spend doing various things. We'll talk about it a little more when I hand it out. Get right to the lesson. Would somebody read 1 Timothy verses 1 and 2?
Do not speak harshly to an older man, but speak to him as to a father, to younger men as brothers, to older women as mothers, to younger women as sisters, with absolute purity.
Thank you, Jackie. In this, do not speak harshly, are the first words. Paul is commanding Timothy, even though it's serious work you are doing, very serious work, there's no excuse for ill treatment or harsh words. He needs to work in a loving, respectful, kind, godly manner. Also notice, and I hope I pronounce this right, the author calls it Famila, F-A-M-I-L-I-A-L. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, somebody please correct me. Familia? Okay, it's describing the relations in familiar language, describing the relations between people of the church. The practice, and here I'm not sure I agree with that. The practice was still present in congregations a generation ago, but as all of it died out in transient, younger, urban-centered churches. However, in churches with older members or in rural settings, one is still apt to hear members refer to each other as brother or sister. Comments on this discussion? Come on, people, I'm only going to get boring here. Hopefully not, though.
It's dark out there, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Pollution. Oh, we have all the lights on.
We both grew up in churches that called us members brother or sister. And that's just the way we did. I mean, there was an older lady that was Sister Day, and, Brother Dick, and I think Donald's church did the same thing. But we were from the South, there's a lot of difference.
Was that more of an evangelical church?
Yes.
Okay. Before Jackie and I started attending here, we were in what might be considered a slightly more an evangelical church than this church, and to some extent, brother and sister was used there. Am I correct, Jackie? Okay.
Would it help you if you didn't remember names? You could say, hi, sister.
Well, I prefer hey you.
Well, there's that. I mean, hi, brother.
Yeah.
Because that's sister.
Okay, now to the interesting section of today's Bible lesson. And we'll see how this goes. Would somebody read verses 3 through the bottom of the page?
Honor widows who are really widows. If a widow has children or grandchildren, they should first learn their religious duty to their own family and make some repayment to their parents. For this is pleasing in God's sight. The real widow, left alone, has set her hope on God and continues in supplications and prayers night and day. But the widow who lives for pleasure is dead, even while she lives. Give these commands as well, so that they may be above reproach. And whoever does not provide for relatives, and especially for family members, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever.
Thank you, Pat.
Sounds like you're picking on the widows here.
No, I don't think so. I think you have to step back in this time period. They didn't have Social Security, didn't have Medicare, Medicaid, probably didn't have food stamps, and basically you worked till you died.
They did have taxes.
Well, yeah, but probably you've got less of them back than we do today. Many ancient cultures recognized the responsibility and expected their rulers to care for widows. However, the Hebrew faith extended this responsibility to all persons, not just to rulers. The fact that the prophets repeatedly stressed the requirement to care for widows is probably proof that this requirement was regularly ignored. How many of us helped care for our mothers if they were widowed? And I know we have several widows in here. How many are receiving help? Or do you need it? Or I guess that's not a fair question to ask. Something to...
I think one of the things that's happening in our society, whether we go to this, and I heard a statistic, and somebody can correct me on this, but 46% of the children who are born today are, well, single parents. And I think that is, that statement, the place where we live, and I'm not going to mention the lady next door to us does not have a husband. The lady on the other side, she has a daughter, and the lady on the other side, there are 3 children. One child is by a gentleman. The other child, he brought in his child, and then last week, they had a child that was born, and it was by these 2 people. And so there are 3 children in there okay, but anyway, there's 3 children. But the point that I'm trying to make is not that I'm trying to condemn or anything. There is a real major change in our society regarding family. It's a tremendous change, in my opinion.
And you know, being a widow at one time, I don't like the word widow. There's a stigma to it, almost a degrading. I don't know what it is. I think divorcee sounds better than widow. I don't know, there's just something, is that just me? It just,
No, I felt the same way.
you know, I had one gentleman in Iowa Falls call, he says, well, here comes Widder Searles. Well,
I hate that.
remember young Widow Brown or what was that? There's such a stigma, isn't that too
Okay,
bad?
based upon those comments, now you understand my trepidation about taking this lesson on. Because
Bless you.
pardon?
Bless you, I said.
Well, it's,
It's a
I know my mother was a widow,